As always, please feel free to contact us with your comments, suggestions, any questions you may have. As always, stay with us. Random Buffalo News is coming up next.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Friday, May 29th of 2026. Your readers today are
Don Williams
and JJ Patek. And we're going to start, as we do, with the weather. It's a gorgeous sunny day outside, and we have sunshine mixing with clouds and winds picking up today with a high of 67. Pleasantly cool. A shower in places during the evening and otherwise partly cloudy and breezy tonight with a low of 45. Tomorrow we'll have clouds and sunshine, breezy and a high of 64 and a low of 47. Sunday it'll be partly sunny and pleasant with a high of 70 and a low of 50. Monday we'll have a couple of showers with a high of 70 and a low of 49. Tuesday we'll have mostly sunny with a high of 68 and a low of 51. Wednesday, mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 71 and a low of 56. And Thursday, we'll be partly sunny with a high of 76 and a low of 60. So sun for a week will be nice after all that rain we've had. And for the area almanac, yesterday's high was 64, depending on where you were. And the low was 52. It was tight, just a little bit warmer than that in Riverside, but not much. The normal high is 71. The normal low is 53, so we were not too far off. And then the record high was 90 just a few years ago in 2016, 10 years ago. And the record low was 35 degrees back in 1907. The air quality today would be good. Now for temperatures in the national extreme, the high was 95 in Punta Gorda, Florida, and the low was 29 degrees in Big Bear City, California. The sun rose today at 5:41 a.m. if you were awake, and it was nice to see it. The sun will set at 8:45 p.m. tonight. The moon will rise today at 7:40 p.m., but it's set at 4:11 a.m. And for weather trivia, Don and I both knew this one. The state averaging the most lightning deaths each year is Florida. So, just due to all the thunderstorms that come off the ocean. So, on to you, Don.
Well, for those of you who are wondering where Big Bear City is, it's San Bernardino County. It's up in the mountains.
Yeah, I was figuring it was probably up there.
Yeah, that's how you get the cold temperatures in California this time of year.
Yeah, typically it doesn't get real warm on top of the mountains.
Exactly. Well, from the front page, we have nearly 2 months late. Hochul signs a $268 billion budget into law.
Oh.
Closing in on 2 months past its due date, Governor Kathy Hochul on Thursday, that was yesterday, signed a $268 billion budget containing more than $302 million for municipalities in western New York, including a 28% increase in state funding for the city of Buffalo. The Buffalo-born governor approved a spending plan that increased money to the city of Buffalo by $65 million, bringing total state aid to the fiscally struggling city to $231.3 million. But Buffalo was far from the only metro area getting state help. Niagara Falls will receive $24 million. Other large cities outside New York City receiving increased funding include Yonkers, $163.2 million. Rochester, $123.2 million. Syracuse, $106.8 million. Albany, $57 million, and Mount Vernon, $19.6 million. Overall, more than $1 billion is headed to cities outside New York City, officials said. Hochul said the state cannot make up for the large federal cuts from the Trump administration, but offered as much help as it could. I think it's going to help the city of Buffalo, Hochul, as a resident in Buffalo, told reporters. It will also help Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, Yonkers, and New York City. I'm not prioritizing one city over another. They all have needs. I think this is going to help a lot of new mayors upstate as well. I want to make sure that they have an opportunity to have time to get out from under the situation they inherited. They're brand new. You can't blame them for the spending or decisions that may have gotten the city into this status, but it's my job to help them out. Buffalo's first-year mayor, Sean Ryan, who was a state senator before being elected to City Hall in November, issued a statement late Wednesday that the aid would give Buffalo an opportunity to make our budget more stable, more responsible, and more sustainable. The mayor and city lawmakers have already agreed to a 19% property tax hike. Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Spokes, a Buffalo Democrat who is leaving office after serving in Albany since January 2003, said in a statement that the aid would put the city on better financial footing. It currently faces a structural deficit of $103 million. Not only is Buffalo benefiting, but other cities and municipalities across western New York are receiving much-needed aid, she said. Senator April Baskin, a Democrat from Buffalo, said in a statement that the extra money would help cities such as Buffalo and also Lackawanna, which is in her district, maintain essential services without placing even more pressure on property taxpayers. Assemblymember Stephen Hawley, a Republican from Batavia, was less flattering of the spending plan, which he noted represents a nearly $14 billion increase over last year's budget. Albany is living beyond its means while hardworking New Yorkers are paying the price, he said in a statement. This budget continues a dangerous pattern of reckless spending while nearly 1 million people have already left New York this decade and more are on their heels. We should be focused on lowering costs, restoring affordability, and making New York a place where people want to stay and grow. The budget was due April 1st, but was late as officials negotiated a host of initiatives. The final budget includes several of Hochul's top priorities, such as prohibiting local police agencies from working with federal immigration agencies on civil immigration enforcement, expanding universal pre-kindergarten and child care, adding restrictions to prevent litigants from collecting non-economic damages if they are found to be more than 50% responsible for an auto collision, changing the Tier 6 pension class, imposing new target dates for the state's pollution-linked emission levels under a 2019 climate change law. And Hochul noted that the budget, which she negotiated with Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, a Democrat from the Bronx, and Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, a Democrat from the Yonkers, also includes energy cost rebates of up to $200, depending on one's income. So the state finally has a budget in place.
Yeah, and then the arguments start again.
Indeed.
Always does. Well, we move on to a story unpleasant. Hantavirus and Ebola, how will we pronounce that? Ebola. Highlight political divide over disease. This is from Ariel Cohen and Savannah Berman of the CQ Roll Call. The Trump administration's shakeup of the U.S. public health apparatus in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic has public health experts concerned about the country's ability to respond to emergency disease outbreaks like hantavirus and Ebola. Whether that's a concern for Congress, however, often depends on the member's party, a reaction that should be familiar to anyone who's lived through the highly partisan response to the pandemic. There are 41 Americans being monitored for hantavirus, a highly deadly pathogen, after an outbreak on a cruise ship off the coast of West Africa. And at least one American has tested positive for Ebola, and 6 Americans had high-risk exposure after an outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo that's suspected of killing hundreds, according to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention data. The overwhelming message is that Americans are at very low risk from these diseases, but some say lawmakers' ad hoc funding of some public health programs, the expiration of others, and the Trump administration's significant cuts at the CDC aren't helping. There might be misconnections or missed opportunities for information sharing, which can add up to delays in responsive understanding what's happening on the ground, said Josh Michaud, Associate Director for the Global Public Health Policy at KFF. Those kinds of things are in an outbreak situation that can be dangerous. Democrats and Public health organizations are raising concerns that the country's public health apparatus is leaderless, underfunded, and unprepared if hantavirus or Ebola spreads further. Republicans largely say it's no sweat, noting that the risk of the American public is low. Okay, CDC cuts. Says this partisan division over infectious disease appears here to stay. Study after study shows that U.S. elected leaders and the general public are quarantined from each other based on political affiliation when it comes to public health, and that alone can lead to poorer health outcomes. 2/3 of Republicans and 3/4 of self-identified MAGA-supporting Republicans say they trust the Trump administration for reliable health information, according to polling from KFF. But just 1/3 or fewer of independents and Democrats say the same. Attrition, retirements, and cuts by the administration have put staffing at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention lower by 25% to 33%, according to some estimates. The agency has been without a permanent director essentially since Trump regained office. God save us if there's another pandemic. These guys can't organize themselves out of a paper bag. Yeah, says Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut and a member of the Senate Health, Education, and Labor Pensions Committee. National Nurses United, the largest union of registered nurses in the country, is concerned that the United States is less prepared to fight infectious diseases now than it was at the start of COVID-19. The Trump administration has purposely taken a sledgehammer to that infrastructure over the past years, the organization said in a statement. Senator Tim Kaine, a Democrat from Virginia, said he's very nervous about agency vacancies in the U.S. no longer being part of the World Health Organization after Trump withdrew from the international body last year. Public health advocates say that could lead to delays in sharing of epidemiological data with other nations and limiting U.S. participation in contact tracing of infected people. The CDC must now rely on direct country-to-country partnerships. Kaine says concerns he's brought to Trump officials about leaving the WHO have gone unaddressed. The leadership of the nation's public health agencies is so up in the air between people getting fired, people being nominated and having their nomination retracted. That's taking a lot of energy right now. Like, who's leading this effort? Kaine asked. The Pandemic and All Hazards Preparedness Act expired in 2023, though some of its provisions have been renewed through short-term extensions and continuing resolutions. Others expired at the end of the 2025 fiscal year, including authorizations to temporarily reassign state and local personnel during public health emergencies and authorizations for national advisory committees for at-risk populations. This may make it difficult for the CDC and state public health departments to make long-term plans to address biosecurity and supply chain issues. Kaine said he wouldn't be surprised if the outbreaks reignite efforts at a long-term authorization of pandemic law. But that stands in contrast to the reaction from many Republicans. Representative Earl L. Buddy Carter, a Republican from Georgia, said the country is in a better place on preparedness than before the COVID-19 outbreak because health officials have a lot of lessons since then. Really. He noted some hantavirus patients are being treated in his state at a biocontainment unit at Emory University. I'm not sure you can ever go far enough. It's always open for scrutiny and or criticism. But I think we're in better shape than we were, he said. I think we should just monitor it and make sure it doesn't get out of hand and do everything we can to keep it under control. House Energy and Commerce Chairman Brett Guthrie, a Republican from Kentucky, said weeks ago they had discussed the hantavirus outbreak with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Deputy Administrator Chris Klomp and that he has his hand on it. Whatever that means. I feel confident about what we're doing now, but we're obviously going to keep an eye on it, Guthrie said. The oversight staff is really focused on this and talking to HHS every day. The outbreaks are coinciding with some lawmakers' efforts. Senators Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts, and Representative Lauren Underwood, a Democrat from Illinois, on May 19th reintroduced a bicameral bill to address risks to maternal health during public health crises. The bill would authorize funding for CDC programs that support maternal and infant health to improve their pandemic response services, communication, and data collection. Health outcomes for pregnant and postpartum women worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a report from the Government Accountability Office. The public health emergencies push our already broken health system Public health emergencies push our already broken healthcare system to the brink, and it's pregnant women and moms who pay the price. We can't get caught flat-footed by the next pandemic or health crises, Warren said in a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good luck with that.
Indeed.
Well, you're listening to a reading of today's news on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. It is now 15 minutes past the hour, and we are going to move on to editorials and celebrating success. So, this is from Robert Ort. Congratulations, Chef Darian Bryan. Oh, yeah, that was that heartwarming story last week. For those of you who somehow missed this, Bryan won it all on reality TV's cooking show, The Next Level Chef. Besides the fame, his tangible winnings, including $250,000 and having celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay as a mentor for a full year. Does that mean we're going to see him here in Buffalo? As the News' Francesca Bond stated, Buffalo has been waiting for a win, and Bryan delivered. The chef has paid his dues to get to this point. Bryan grew up in rural Jamaica, where working for his mother's cook shop planted the seed for his future career. He moved to Buffalo in 2012, and his first cooking job was at Denny's. Ambition and hard work did the rest. Now he plans on expanding his culinary footprint. Next month, he will open Reserve Steakhouse in the building next to Bratz Hill, where he plans to cook French and Italian cuisines. Bryan also ponders opening a hotel, maybe an ice cream shop, or even a bowling alley. Buffalo's lucky to be the place where this Jamaican chef's dreams came true.
They answered your question. Yes, we're going to see him in Buffalo.
Oh boy, am I happy about that.
There you go.
Chef Ramsay, I come from a family of cooks. You have to see what our picnics look like. They look like French restaurants.
I see.
Buffalo's green spaces are getting bigger and better. We have some state park improvements here. The only state park within the city reopened after a $50 million transformation. Governor Kathy Hochul recently announced the opening of a renovated Buffalo Harbor State Park, which has greatly enhanced offerings for local families. And that was always beautiful. As reported by the News' Deidre Williams, the facility's features include an innovative new spray park, a massive bison sculpture, and an enhanced accessible playground. The park will also have a cafe and retail space, public restrooms, and a park office.
The 6,700 square foot spray park provides children with an active play experience and a way to cool off during the warmer summer months. Adults might want to join in. The spray park area will be open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily, weather permitting. The centerpiece of the project is the bison sculpture by artist I.Q. Hopen. The sculpture is composed of 2,000 individual stainless steel birds representing 15 bird species native to New York State. An expanded playground also features universally accessible elements. Other improvements include native plantings and updated park furnishings, including pergola swings overlooking the harbor. Convincing children and families to get on board with the governor's Get Off Line, Get Outside campaign is now a lighter lift given these state-of-the-art updates. And finally, just cruising. Another waterfront-related development is aimed at the good life. Buffalo's first cruise passengers in decades are heading this way. And as reported by the News' Samantha Chrisman, ushering in a new era of Great Lakes cruise tourism for the Queen City. State officials have engaged with at least 2 cruise lines that have added Buffalo to their itineraries. Connecticut-based American Cruise Lines will be the first to visit the Queen City, while Indiana-based Victory Cruise Lines has Buffalo on its 2027 itinerary. Great cruising is also about great shore excursions, which will include the Buffalo AKG Art Museum, the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park, and the Darwin Martin House. Some cruises will use Buffalo as a place to begin or end cruises. More work is planned, such as a permanent docking terminal and a U.S. Customs facility for Buffalo's outer harbor. When the ships arrive, passengers will be greeted with a warm and heartfelt welcome to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Now, this was published a day ago or so. They actually had a nice feature on Channel 4 last night with the first of the visits from one of the Great Lakes cruises. People were very excited to be visiting Buffalo. It was really nice to see.
Yeah. Where did they dock her, I wonder? Over at Erie Basin or down?
Down by where Pier 1 used to be.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I hope they take some of them people over to the botanical gardens. We have stunning botanical gardens.
We do.
Well, we have a couple of interesting political cartoons we usually do. And from Mike Lukovich, we have an interesting, actually, this one's pretty funny, cartoon, and it's entitled The Ballroom. And we have a bunch of men, one labeled the GOP politicians, and well, actually, they're all labeled the GOP politicians, and they have balls and chains attached, large balls and chains attached to their ankles, and all of them say Trump. And the other one from Michael Ramirez, we have a cartoon of an overhead shot of the remains of the White House. In a wooded, it looks like a wooded area or something, and it's got this large brick road coming out of either side of the White House with a high brick fence with what looks like turrets overlooking the landscape. To me, it looks like the Great Wall of China, and you have a little one off to the one side, nothing on this side, and a truck parked in the front entranceway saying Taiwan Defense. Nothing like made in America.
Nothing like it.
Yeah. Yeah, you could take that one a few different ways, but it certainly looks foreboding to me.
Turning to the main editorial for the day, this one from Minnesota Star Tribune writer Jill Burkham. The headline says, Minnesota to ICE, try to remember no one is above the law. If Washington won't hold federal immigration agents accountable for misconduct, Minnesota will. Criminal charges filed this month here against Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent Christian Castro sent this powerful warning to agents across the country. Lawless behavior will not go unanswered, even if there's a federal badge on your chest and you've been told you have absolute immunity. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty commendably made that plain when her office charged Castro with 4 felony counts of second-degree assault and a misdemeanor count of falsely reporting a crime. The charges stem from a January night when Castro allegedly fired a shot into a Minnesota home, wounding a man named Julio Sosa Celis and putting children there at risk. The agent then told authorities the occupant had attacked him with a shovel and broom. But federal prosecutors later dropped related charges against the home's occupants after video and other evidence contradicted Castro's account. 4 months have now passed, and it is unclear if Castro has been disciplined or remains on the job. I asked the Department of Homeland Security and ICE about Castro's status. Statements on May 19th from both agencies avoided the remains on the job question. The other comments suggested he could be disciplined, but has yet to be.
Thankfully, Minnesota is pursuing accountability with righteous urgency. Moriarty may be the first county or state prosecutor in the country to bring criminal charges against a federal agent for conduct during the Trump administration's immigration sweeps. The case sends a signal to ICE agents operating not just in Minnesota but across the country. If the federal government won't police its own, somebody else will. If you commit a crime in this state, we will investigate it. And if a crime was committed, we will charge it, Moriarty told me in an interview. A month ago, Moriarty also charged Gregory Donnell Morgan Jr., another ICE agent assigned to Minneapolis, with 2 counts of second-degree assault after he pointed a gun at 2 civilians during a rush-hour road rage incident on February 5th. Moriarty has been methodical, building cases carefully, then moving decisively once she has the evidence to proceed. She has teamed up with Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in an investigative environment that the federal government made as difficult as possible. Federal agents initially promised cooperation after each of the 3 Operation Metro Surge shootings in Minneapolis, Renee Good, Alex Preddy, and Sosa Salas, and then failed to collaborate. In the Castro case, Moriarty had a crucial advantage. The BCA got to the scene quickly and was able to establish Castro's identity. She also had the Justice Department's own acknowledgement and embedded in its motion to dismiss charges against Sosa Salas. That video and other evidence materially contradicted key parts of Castro's account of what happened that night. Moriarty anticipates a legal fight. Castro, who lives out of state, will almost certainly have to try to have the case moved to federal court, and that might complicate things, but Moriarty and Attorney General Keith Ellison remain confident. If the case goes to federal court, they said that Minnesota state law still applies and the Minnesota prosecution team still tries it, and any conviction is a state conviction. That last point is important. It means President Trump could not pardon Castro. Ellison invoked the historic Boston Massacre prosecutions as well as an 1890 Supreme Court case to make the point that states always have the power to hold federal agents criminally accountable within their borders. When I asked ICE and DHS about this case, the response I received managed to argue 2 contradictory things in the same statement.
Sounds like a political thing.
Sounds about normal, sadly. These actions by Minnesota sanctuary politicians are unlawful and nothing more than a political stunt, a DHS spokesman said, but the statement didn't stop there. It went on to declare that lying under oath is a serious federal offense and that the U.S. Attorney's General's office is actively investigating these statements with potential disciplinary action, including termination of employment, as well as potential criminal prosecution to follow. Pick one. The Fed's statement closed with this: the men and women of ICE are entrusted with upholding the rule of law and are held to the highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and ethical conduct, and violation of this sacred sworn oath will not be tolerated.
Thankfully, Minnesota is pursuing accountability with righteous urgency. Moriarty may be the first county or state prosecutor in the country to bring criminal charges against a federal agent for conduct during the Trump administration's immigration sweeps. The case sends a signal to ICE agents operating not just in Minnesota, but across the country. If the federal government won't police its own, someone else will. If you commit a crime in this state, we will investigate it. And if a crime was committed, we will charge it, Moriarty told me in an interview. I'm sorry, you read that part already.
Yes, I did.
I'm going to start reading the rest of it. Moriarty and Ellison noted the obvious problem. I think it's nonsensical. How do you start off saying that what we're doing is unlawful and then say that lying is a terrible thing and that they are actively investigating, Moriarty said. Ellison was more pointed, noting that they denounced Minnesota's prosecution as a political stunt while conceding the agent may have committed the crimes Minnesota has charged Castro with. Hopefully, the legal groundwork pioneered in Minnesota becomes a model for other states where the Trump administration's immigration sweeps have sparked controversy and allegations of misconduct. Moriarty is part of a coalition of prosecutors across the nation who are sharing legal strategies, learning how to navigate federal removal procedures, and preparing their local law enforcement partners to document and preserve evidence if federal agents come to their communities. Sadly, an even bigger battle for justice lies ahead. Moriarty has charged 2 agents where she had enough evidence to proceed, but Moriarty, Ellison, and the BCA have had to sue the federal government to obtain evidence in the deaths of Good and Preddy after federal authorities blocked state investigators from crime scenes and reneged on cooperation promises. That makes what Moriarty, Ellison, and the BCA are taking on the federal government and a vengeful presidential administration on behalf of victims who have no one else fighting for them. In a moment when many elected officials have chosen to look away rather than pick a fight with Washington, D.C., that conscientious commitment to justice deserves to be recognized.
Amen. Well,
Go hold your breath.
yeah, I'm not. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. It's 29 minutes past the hour, and we are going to move on to An article in My View, which looks to be pretty good, from Margaret Terrell of Tonawanda, who's enjoying life on the road, and she entitles it Downsizing in Stages. Makes the process easier, which I have found to be true. For the past 20 years, my husband and I have been downsizing. It started when we moved from our 2-story home into my husband's mom's home with an upstairs 3-room apartment plus bathroom. It was a good time to downsize, or as I like to call it, right size, as the kids were grown up and out on their own, and we could be more help to his mom. When she died, we moved down to the first floor main area and downsized again. I sorted through duplicate items like dishes, toasters, baking pans, and vegetable peelers. You get the idea. Been there, done that. About 10 years later, my mom and stepdad, who were living out of town, came to live with us. I helped them downsize my mom's home of over 50 years. My mom was a saver. As a former art teacher, everything was a potential art project. Oh boy, I can identify with that. Also, I found things that my siblings and I played with as children. Fortunately, she gave me free rein to decide what was no longer needed and what to include in the big move. My husband and I again moved upstairs so they could have the first floor. When they died a few years later, we moved back downstairs and went through the downsizing process again. Well, that's a lot of busy. Fast forward another 10 years and approaching our 70s, and we decided it was time to look for a smaller home. We found a home with our living space entirely on the first floor, including laundry, and again found ourselves downsizing. Then about a year ago came the ultimate downsizing challenge. We really enjoyed tent camping, but deciding it was time to get off the ground, we bought a 16-foot travel trailer. The interior is about the size of a small bedroom, so deciding what we really needed to survive away from home was a challenge. Sounds like a pilot for a new Survivor series. In October, we went on a 3-day trial camping trip. Then in April, we bit the bullet and planned a 3-week trip down the East Coast to visit family in Florida, stopping at various historical sites. How did we fare? Well, we're still best friends.
Excellent.
There's an interesting start. What did we learn? To say excuse me a lot. To be patient when we wanted the same space. To have a place for everything and to put everything back in its place. To come up with creative menus to accommodate a single burner stovetop and microwave. And to leave home 90% of the just-in-case things we packed that we ended up not needing at all. Our only disagreements came from the following less than helpful instructions from Sophie on GPS. Oh, for the days of railroad maps. Really. As on anything, there are pros and cons to downsizing. When talking to friends and family, some feel they need, quote-unquote, to downsize, but finding the time, making decisions, and the memories attached are a challenge. Amen. Take some friendly advice from the self-proclaimed queen of downsizing. There are no right or wrong ways to downsize. It's never too late to start, and take small steps. Have a plan to pass on your used with love items that can be invaluable to others. Knowing I can't keep everything, I always save a few things as memories of the loved ones in my life. You may also be asking, is there anything I can regret giving away? My answer is, there's always a Walmart nearby.
Oh, boy.
Well, maybe if you really love something specific for reasons, Walmart may not have that, but...
Well, if they did some planning and they wound up leaving home 90% of the just-in-case things, they probably did a pretty good job of planning, if they didn't need those things after all.
Well, when I took trips flying across the country to explore the West, everything had to be in one suitcase, and I ended up taking nothing more than a book I wanted to read, my Bible, and 3 changes of clothes because every motel has a laundromat, and it was perfect.
Well, another voice this week comes from Rob Ort, the New York State Senate Minority Leader, Representative District 62. And this is on the Second Amendment. Punishing illegal gun owners is not protection. In Albany this week, the Democratic majority put the Public Protection and General Government Bill to the floor for a vote. Despite its deceptive name, this package of bills strips New Yorkers of their freedoms. This package aims to ban Glocks in New York State and other out-of-touch gun grab from Democrats who understand very little about firearms and even less about the Constitution. For more than 40 years, Glock pistols have been trusted by police departments and military branches across the globe. New York State issues the Glock 47, and I carry a Glock 43. Despite their reputation for safety and dependability, we're looking at a bill that will ban the sale of one of the most reliable, user-friendly, and affordable pistols on the market. Gun owners and licensed dealers have been anxiously watching this bill and know full well it has nothing to do with public safety and everything to do with Democrats acting tough on guns. In her State of the State address, the governor said pistol converters turn Glocks into fully automatic machines capable of firing 1,200 rounds per minute. Anyone who knows guns knows this is complete nonsense. It may be factually true that an illegally converted Glock can fire rounds faster than a semi-auto, but let's look at reality. In New York State, to legally obtain a Glock, you need a pistol permit, a long and expensive process. On top of that, it is already illegal to purchase or manufacture the so-called Glock switch. It's also worth noting that pistols are limited to 10-round magazines. Democrats are trying to prevent something that's already illegal. I cannot, under current law, modify my Glock to be fully automatic or load 1,200 rounds into it. Democrats are simply hurting local gun stores that will no longer be able to sell their number one product. The only thing this bill truly accomplishes is stripping New Yorkers of their Second Amendment rights and constitutional liberties. But as usual, Albany Democrats are more concerned with taking away our freedoms instead of going after criminals. New Yorkers deserve leaders who will hold criminals accountable and protect public safety without chipping away at the constitutional rights and liberties of responsible citizens. That from Rob Ortt, the New York State Senate Minority Leader, and he knows something about what he's writing about, unlike some of the editorials we read.
Well, and gun rights are a matter of personal thing. I don't have a gun, don't want a gun, because I know my own temperament. I rarely lose my temper, but when I do, probably better if I don't have access to one of them.
Okay.
So I will never get a gun. And I've managed to survive very nicely for 73 years without one. And I haven't hurt anybody. Well, I haven't killed anybody. Let's put it that way. Now let's move on to Buffalo next. And AI is rapidly changing software engineering. This is from Lisa Idasico from CNN. And the interview process for jobs has been hit like an atomic bomb. It's a tough job market for software engineering hopefuls. Tens of thousands of job cuts across the industry have increased competition for open spots. The rise of AI has spurred fears of cheating during interviews, and company priorities are changing. The tech evolves almost daily. But hiring managers have a bigger concern. Now that AI can write code, how can you figure out who or even what skill set makes a good software engineer? The interview process hasn't kept up with the way AI has changed programmers' daily responsibility, career experts and software engineers said. That's made the hiring process more challenging for both job seekers and hiring managers. I would say AI has hit engineering interviewing like an atomic bomb, said Stefan Mai, a former engineer for Meta and Amazon and co-founder of the tech interview coaching service Hello Interview. Software engineering has been among the first industries to be noticeably impacted by AI. A report from Google's research division last year found that 90% of tech workers use AI for tasks like writing and modifying code, up 14% from the previous year. And the field has been closely watched as a bellwether for AI as adoption expands. AI can now help software engineers write code and documentation, analyze data, learn coding concepts, and troubleshoot, among other things, and that lets tech companies move in much more quickly, some executives say. An OpenAI engineer used AI to implement a system change that would have taken his team a week otherwise, company president Greg Brockman said during a Sequoia Capital talk. Many internal apps at Google are being mostly written with the company's anti-gravity AI coding tool, Varun Mohan. A director at Google DeepMind told CNN earlier this year. Boris Cherny, Anthropic's head of Claude Code, wrote on X in December that 100% of his contributions to the product over the past 30 days were written by Claude Code. Sherny believes that AI is shifting the role of software engineer to focus on high-level decision-making rather than writing code. The title software engineer might be replaced with a name like builder that better captures the position, he previously told CNN. AI isn't meant to replace engineers, Google's Mohan told CNN. We think developers should spend most of their time trying to figure out what they should build, he said. That's the whole question. Madhu Kurup, Vice President of Engineering at Indeed, compared AI and software engineering to Google Maps, role in travel. Google Maps can tell a person which highway exit to use, flag traffic conditions, and find coffee shops on a driver's route. But it doesn't pick the destination or decide what time to leave. However, that Google report last year indicated that 46% of tech workers only somewhat trust the quality of AI-generated code, and 31% said AI only slightly improved code. And layoffs throughout 2025 and 2026 suggest AI is affecting payrolls. AI was a top reason cited by companies for job cuts in April for the second month in a row, the executive outplacement firm Challenger, Gray & Christmas said this month. Companies for years have evaluated potential candidates with regimented tests that some say felt like taking the SATs, but for coding, they don't measure how workers delegate tasks to an agent and use AI to navigate issues, brainstorm, or work more efficiently. Now, some engineers feel those tests no longer reflect what their job will actually look like. Jordan Leonard, co-founder and chief operating officer of Leopard FYI, a tech hiring network. Well, that kind of puts a shadow one way or the other because you don't know which way it's going.
Meanwhile, Jamie McKeever, a reporter for Reuters, has an article headlined "Inflation Data Dashes Hope for Rate Cuts." A gap is widening between two key measures of underlying U.S. inflation. Unfortunately for newly confirmed Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh, the one rising faster is the central bank's preferred gauge, further squashing any hope for interest rate cuts. The Bureau of Economic Analysis yesterday released April's personal consumption expenditure figures, they call it PCE, one of two closely watched measures of price changes across a wide range of goods and services. The other is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. Annual headline PCE inflation rose to 3.8% from 3.5% in March on the back of soaring energy prices. Core inflation, which strips out volatile food and energy costs, rose to 3.3% from 3.2%. These numbers were in line with expectations, but are still uncomfortable for Warsh. Annual measures of headline and core PCE and CPI inflation have been above 2% for more than 5 years, and President Trump's tariffs and the Iran war now seem likely to extend that to 6 years and beyond. Crucially, a wedge is developing between core PCE, which is now up to 3.3%, and CPI, which is running at 2.8%. It's a rare phenomenon that will trouble policymakers the longer it persists and frustrate Trump, who has made no secret of his desire to see rates cut. In general terms, PCE is the broader of the two as it covers urban and rural communities, while the CPI only includes urban households. The PCE index also includes expenditures made on behalf of consumers, such as employers' health insurance payments. In the 3 decades through the COVID-19 pandemic, core PCE was always below 3% and rarely rose above core CPI. Economists at Bank of America estimate that PCE has topped CPI only around 11% of the time since 1990, but this relationship has flipped in recent months. One major factor may be the AI boom. Dean Mackey, chief economist at hedge fund Point72, notes that computer software and accessories have a much larger weighting in the core PCE index. This series is rising at an annual rate of about 14%, lifted by the AI CAPEX splurge this year. If the latest AI CAPEX forecast for some $800 billion in spending this year are accurate, a rise of 80% on the previous year, according to Morgan Stanley, then this source of pressure on prices is unlikely to ease anytime soon. Another factor is the classification of food prices. Core CPI excludes all food purchases, while the core PCE index includes food services, that is, food purchased for off-premises consumption, as the Cleveland Fed describes it. This latter category of food prices away from home rose 3.6% in April, Mackey notes. Overall, core PCE inflation looks even further above target than the core CPI, and we think that is likely to remain the case in the coming months, Mackey wrote recently. This may explain why Warsh has indicated an openness to looking beyond core PCE. He has indicated a preference for the Dallas and Cleveland Fed's trimmed mean inflation gauges that remove extreme price moves at the margins to give a clearer picture of how underlying prices change from month to month. For years, especially during the Alan Greenspan Fed era in the 2000s, it was widely assumed that the benchmark for the Fed's 2% inflation target was annual core PCE. But according to the Fed's website, the 2% target is now measured by the annual change in the price index for personal consumption expenditures. That suggests policymakers are looking at headline PCE, although confusingly, both measures have become interchangeable among Fed officials, economists, and market participants in recent years. On the one hand, this ambiguity could provide the Fed with wiggle room as it balances its interest in maintaining full employment with its focus on price stability. But the lack of clarity could lead markets to believe that the Fed is simply moving the goalposts, selecting whichever measure best supports the desired policy shift. At a time when questions about Fed independence are rife, that's a major risk, and one more reason why Warsh's honeymoon period may already be over before it's barely started.
As part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings, and if you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Chuzik Donald D. Don at the age of 92. Coleman John Henry at the age of 91. Janowski George at the age of 97. And Lang Mary Jane Nakalkas from Cheektowaga. We have no age on her. Palumbo Daniel of 68 of Amherst. Stevanovich Peter, age 90 of Hamburg. Wilcox Thomas M., age 70. And then Zavitz Catherine I. Nicole. She's 86 years old, and she was in East Amherst, New York. Again, if you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. And we do have two obituaries of note. John McLean, 71, who was the co-executor of the Michael Jackson estate. John McLean was a musician and a record executive who helped power Janet Jackson's ascent to pop stardom before serving as co-executor of the estate of Jackson's brother Michael. He died Tuesday in Los Angeles at the age of 71, and his death was confirmed by Diana Barron, a representative of the estate, who said that McLean died from complications of a fall. I am profoundly grieved at the loss of my partner and brother, said attorney John Bronco, who was the co-executor of the Michael Jackson estate with O'Kane. In his statement, he described McLean as one of the great innovators in the world of music and music marketing. He said it's difficult to imagine a world without him. They were named their post in the Michael Jackson will. They steered his estate from financial and reputational ruin at the time of the pop star's death in 2009, much of it due to multiple allegations of child sexual abuse against the singer, and on to enormous success of posthumous projects, including the concert film This Is It, the Cirque du Soleil production of Michael Jackson 1, the Broadway show MJ the Musical, and others. McLean's oversight of Michael Jackson's complicated legacy following his work with Janis Jackson, whom he put in the studio with producers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis to make the hit album Control and Rhythm Nation in 1814. The pairing of Janis Jackson with Jam and Lewis was his master stroke, and Questlove wrote on Wednesday in the social media and changed music forever. He was born in L.A., where his father described a 1998 Los Angeles Times profile as a notorious Los Angeles figure who rubbed shoulders with gangster Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, opened the It Club, the jazz spot known for Appearances by luminaries including Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk. Whoa. His mother played piano and appeared with Lena Horne in several movies in the 1940s, according to the Times' story. He grew up studying classical music, began playing guitar as a teenager, got into the music industry as a teen, as a sessions player for the likes of Lionel Richie and Gladys Knight. Wow. Then 1984, became the director of black music at A&M Records, where he worked with Janet Jackson and Atlantic Starr, among other acts. He was one of the great music men in the business, and Mick Lane said he loved the guy and learned a lot from him. After leaving Interscope in 1997, he returned to A&M, then worked at DreamWorks before taking the helm of the Janet Jackson estate, and information about his survivors was not immediately available. And then Pierre, I'm going to say that's Denis, the Frenchman. Mm-hmm. It looks like Denis, but I think the French pronounce it differently. Mm-hmm. Denis. 69, a French actor who starred in Emily in Paris. Pierre Denis, a French actor known in the United States for his portrayal of a luxury brand executive in the streaming series Emily in Paris, has died at the age of 69. It was deep emotion. We announced the passing of Pierre Denis, which occurred in his Monday following a sudden severe case of ALS, his daughter said in a statement to the French news service APF. Via Le Parisien. He was primarily a television actor, and he was born on July 12th of 1956 and had almost 70 films and TV credits to his name, plus dozens of theater roles under his belt. He appeared in 3 episodes of Emily in Paris, playing Louis de Leon, a chief executive of the fictional luxury conglomerate JVMA in seasons 3 and 4, but he's better known in France for his hundreds of episodes as Dr. René Dumas on the popular daytime drama Tomorrow Is Ours. He was, pardon me, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease which destroys nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord that a person needs to walk, talk, swallow, and breathe. With no cure available, most people die within 3 to 5 years of their first symptoms. Grey's Anatomy actor Eric Dane died from complications of ALS in February at 53. And others have also died from this too. So this was a big loss to the acting community. Pierre Denis. So again, if you need further information on these names, please call us at 716-821-5555.
Turning to the stars, where Georgia Nichols writes, for Aries, today your emotional experiences will be much more intense than usual. Tonight, check your finances. Taurus, today your attention will turn to your most personal relationships. If there's a conflict, it'll be emotional. Tonight, partnerships. Gemini, today you might have to put your own practical or emotional needs second to the needs of someone else. Tonight, work. Cancer, romantic possibilities are exciting today. Grab every opportunity to socialize with others. Tonight, play. Leo, it will please you today to get some time to yourself to relax among familiar surroundings, perhaps hiding out at home. Tonight, relax. Virgo, today you have a strong desire to express your views to others, which means, for starters, you need to find someone willing to listen. Tonight, learn something new. Libra, you might find that you're identifying with your possessions today more than usual, which means you won't want to lend anything. Tonight, check your money. Scorpio, today the moon is in your sign, which can make you more emotional than usual. Tonight, be patient. Sagittarius, solitude and beautiful surroundings will please you today. You'll enjoy being outdoors. Tonight, enjoy privacy. Capricorn, today is a good day to enjoy the company of friends, groups, and organizations. You might feel protective and supportive. Tonight, schmooze. Aquarius, today the moon is high in your chart, which means you'll attract the attention of others. Tonight, be modest. Pisces, today your sense of adventure is aroused, which is why you want to break free from your daily routine. Tonight, adventure.
And we're supposed to have a blue moon this week, so that ought to be affecting those horoscopes. I'm surprised we didn't see that.
A blue moon this week? I lost track of that.
Yeah, I just happened to see an article about it, and I've been looking at the moon. It's not full yet.
No, it's not full yet. A couple days. It looked pretty big last night. I was on my way home from Lockport about 10:30. It was huge, bright as could be. It was a perfectly clear sky. Well, today in history, in 1453, the Ottoman Empire conquered Constantinople, now known as Istanbul. Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Istanbul is Constantinople.
Yeah, that's the song. Exactly. Anyway, that was the capital of the Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire. 1790, Rhode Island became the last of the 13 colonies to ratify the U.S. Constitution, and it became the 13th state. In 1848, Wisconsin became the 30th state. Speaking at the Ohio Women's Rights Convention, abolitionist and former enslaved person Sojourner Truth delivered her famous speech, "Ain't I a woman?" 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay became the first people to reach the summit of Mount Everest. In 1973, Tom Bradley was elected mayor of Los Angeles, becoming the city's first black mayor and the first black mayor of a major U.S. city that did not have a black majority of residents. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan began the Moscow summit with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. In 2014, Laverne Cox, who played Sophia Burnett on the Netflix show Orange is the New Black, became the first transgender person on the cover of Time magazine. And in 2015, One World Trade Center's observatory opened to the public. Its three-story vantage offering views of the Statue of Liberty, the New York skyline, and beyond from high in the 1,776-foot building. I suppose they chose to build it 1,776 feet tall on purpose.
You gotta wonder. Okay. We have another minute before our break. Tariffs hurt Mexico's manufacturing gains from Gonzalo Sotos. U.S. tariffs pushed by President Trump and supply chain disruptions are eroding Mexico's gains as a manufacturing hub, raising the risk that the country slips back into the exporting lower value goods that create few jobs or for investment opportunities. On the surface, Mexico's exports are still breaking records, giving President Claudia Sheinbaum a headline number as to tout proof of economic resilience. Shipments surged nearly 33% from a year earlier in April to $72 billion, according to official data released this week, and imports climbed 24% to a record as well, but with telling data. Intermediate goods used in manufacturing and assembly made up nearly 80% of total imports in the first 4 months of this year. And while Mexico's automotive industry employs 800,000 people, computer equipment assembly workers are only 60,000, mainly in the northern part of the country where production is concentrated. So you're listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for today, Friday, May 29th of 2026 on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We will return for more readings after this short break, and your readers today are
Don Williams
and JJ Patek.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
And we're back. We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Kyrie Patek.
and Don Williams. Turning to the local news on the city and region page, legislators approve policy on luxury suite at stadium. Erie County has its own luxury suite in the new Bills Stadium, but the county legislature yesterday approved a policy that restricts who can use it and how. In addition, legislators approved amendments to the original policy draft to require more transparency regarding who uses the site. It does not, however, bar any county elected officials from entering the suite briefly, such as to greet guests, if they already have their own tickets to the game. It also does not restrict access by state officials to the county suite, since the county does not have authority over their actions. The issue of who can access the county's hospitality center, that's what they have it in quotes, in the new stadium has been a sensitive subject. The state's use of a Bills luxury suite in the former stadium, designed for public purposes by government leaders, has led to criticism about abuses by top elected leaders who have enjoyed Bills games without any obvious public benefit. County legislators have said they want to avoid similar accusations about misuse and abuse. The new policy forbids the suite from being used for political purposes or events, bars county officials from attending any regular season and postseason games for free, establishes a lottery system distributing all game day tickets to qualifying charitable organizations. It also gives several state and county economic development agencies access to the suite. Legislators amended the policy yesterday to require that the names of all, quoting here, formal guests who use the suite must be provided to the legislature within 30 days. If any of those guests is a county official, that official is required to reimburse the face value of the ticket and a portion of any food or drink costs. Informal guests who are county officials without a county hospitality suite ticket, but who have a separate ticket to the game, may enter the center without having to reimburse any costs, but the amended language says they may visit only briefly. The amended policy was approved in an 8-3 vote yesterday, with 3 of 4 Republicans voting against it. The county's hospitality suite is being provided in exchange for the county's contribution of $250 million toward the construction of the new Highmark Stadium, which will be transferred to the state once the stadium is completed. The new policy will grant county hospitality suite access to 2 types of organizations: economic development agencies and charitable organizations. Of the 8 regular home games in the 2026 season, the policy will grant suite access for 1 game to each of these 3 economic development organizations, with the expectation that the suites will be used to woo potential investors to the region. Those 3 agencies are the Erie County Industrial Development Agency, the county's economic development arm, Visit Buffalo, which works to attract tourism to the state, and the Empire State Development Corporation, the state's lead economic development agency. Each will be given all 16 available suite tickets and 4 parking passes for an individual game for its use. The remaining 5 games will be awarded by lottery to 10 eligible nonprofit organizations that are based in Erie County and serve county residents, according to the policy. 2 of these organizations would split the available suite tickets and parking passes for each game, getting 8 tickets and 2 parking passes each. Suite access to the Bills' 2 preseason games and any team practices open to the public will be granted on a lottery basis to full-time county civil servants, which excludes elected officials and political appointees under the policy. All 8 regular season games and any postseason games will be awarded at random, with no organization able to bid on a particular game. Additional provisions of the policy include: in order for charitable organizations to be considered for the lottery, they must have valid nonprofit status as designated by the Internal Revenue Service, submit copies of their completed federal 990 forms the past 5 years, and provide a statement of intent for use of the tickets. The legislature amended the policy to state that these applications may be disclosed to the public. Lottery applications must be submitted through a designated online portal. Any charitable group that is awarded tickets would be ineligible for county suite tickets within the next 3 seasons. Any organization given access to the county suite must pay for its own food and beverages and is forbidden from smoking, vaping, or using cannabis in the suite. The policy also bars the suite from serving alcohol. Any county official who is invited by a nonprofit to join for a game in the suite must reimburse the face value of the ticket in the form of a payment to the charitable organization, as well as 1/16 of the cost of any food or beverages ordered for the suite. Other county officials who would be classified as informal guests could visit briefly but are not eligible to take a seat and watch the game from the suite. And the policy forbids the county suite from being used for any political events, including fundraisers or events in support or opposition to any public policy issue. Not all Democrats and Republicans liked the luxury box access policy. Some thought the policy should be more restrictive, or that suite tickets to regular season games should simply be sold and the money put to better use. But overall, legislators who voted for the policy said that it was important to get some type of policy in place now ahead of the next Bills season so that guardrails exist to avoid abuses and impropriety. We added more transparency, said legislator Taisha St. John Tard, Democrat from Buffalo, who provided input on the law's original and amended drafts. You're going to have a list of who's in the box every 30 days. The amended law also will provide a public list of all eligible charities that apply for the suite tickets prior to the lottery for each season tickets. She also pointed out that if any issues or concerns with this policy arise, it can be further changed in future years. Legislator Lindsay Larigo, Republican from West Seneca, said she didn't support the new policy, despite some positive elements, because it doesn't forbid elected officials from stepping foot in the suite and leaves discretion for policy oversight to the county executive. A Republican amendment to ban any elected officials from visiting the suite failed on party lines. I just think it's a really bad look to the people we serve.
Well, that was
said.
Confusing. What does briefly mean? 1 minute, 5 minutes? And it also makes you wonder, why do they even have this suite? Because it's, well, what? I don't get it. Well, let's move on to something else. Okay, I am on page B. Legislators override polling carts veto allow youths to shoot deer, and this is from Sandra Tan. It took 3 tries and a bipartisan veto override, but the Erie County Legislature finally approved a youth hunting law that will allow young hunters ages 12 and 13 to legally shoot deer. The legislature voted 8-3 Thursday to adopt the youth hunting law, with 4 of 7 Democrats and all 4 Republicans voting to pass the law and override a veto by Democratic County Executive Mark Poloncarz. Vetoes by the county executive are rare, and the successful veto overrides are even more rare since Democrats hold a commanding majority in the legislature and often side with the county executive. Ken Delano, Vice President of the Erie County Federation of Sportsmen Clubs, which encompasses 45 hunting, fishing, and trapping organizations and about 12,000 members, was one of several people who addressed the legislature prior to their vote to lobby for the resolution's passage and expressed relief that the law passed. I'm very happy that they decided to go ahead with a majority vote, he said. It's been a long time coming. Erie County was the last remaining county outside of New York City area to ban adolescents from hunting deer with a firearm. Other counties allow it after youths take a hunting and firearm safety course and are accompanied by an adult mentor while hunting. The ban for 12 and 13-year-olds has been a sore spot for some in Erie County, which sells the most hunting licenses by far of any county in the state. Thursday's vote means Poloncarz cannot stop the county from opting into the youth hunting law, something Poloncarz knew was a possibility when he vetoed it, a law 2 weeks ago. It said, if they override this veto and a child dies in the future, my conscience will be clear knowing I did everything I could to try to prevent that tragedy. The legislature first passed the law with a 6-5 majority in 2021, but Poloncarz vetoed the law, and the legislature did not have the 2/3 majority vote to override it. Last month, legislators voted 7-3 in favor of the hunting law, 1 vote shy of creating a veto-proof majority, but legislator Chris Green, a Republican from Clarence, who supports the law, was absent the day of that vote. Green was present on Thursday and cast his vote in favor. A factor in gaining more Democratic votes was a report released in February by the state's Department of Environmental Conservation about youth deer hunting law. Aside from referencing the overwhelming popularity among youth hunters, the report also stated that during the first 4 years of this pilot program, no instance of hunting-related shooting incidents, rules violations, or license revocations as a result of the law have been reported. Before the state law was first adopted in 2021, children as young as 12 were already permitted with adult oversight to use firearms to shoot small game, including game birds, squirrels, rabbits, and coyotes. But New York was the only state to forbid youth from using firearms to shoot deer until they were 14. Instead, those adolescents were limited to hunting deer with a regular compound bow and arrow. State laws changed in 2021 so that children as young as 12 who have met the requirements for a valid hunting license could use a rifle, shotgun, or muzzleloader or a crossbow with supervision of parent, guardian, or experienced adult mentor age 21 and over, if counties opted into the state provision. Animal rights advocates and those concerned about gun violence involving youth have objected to laws that allow or encourage putting firearms in the hands of children. Public hearings have included a majority in favor of the county opting in, citing stronger strong hunter and firearm training requirements and the fact that all surrounding counties have already opted into the law. But some outspoken opponents raised child safety concerns and objected to hunting as cruel and outdated pastime. Hunting advocates in attendance Thursday, however, were pleased with the outcome. We're grateful that they saw the value in the program that has been very successful and very safe statewide over the last 5 years now, said Diana Steele, secretary for the Sportsman Club. We're very happy to see that they recognize that. Well, there's a lot to be said either way for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, some people would say there's a lot to be said about this one. City Controller Barbara Miller-Williams has filed the paperwork to continue her legal fight to cap borrowing approved by city officials. Miller-Williams, through her attorneys at Woods, Oviatt Gilman, filed a move to appeal motion, asking the State Court of Appeals to hear her case. The move comes after a state Supreme Court justice and the State Appellate Division, 4th Department, both ruled against her in a lawsuit brought by Common Council members Christopher Scanlon and Mitchell Nowakowski. Scanlon, then the mayor, and Nowakowski brought the lawsuit against Miller-Williams in September last year after she refused to borrow in excess of a $28 million internal debt cap set by her office for the $110 million 2025 capital budget put forth by Scanlon and approved by the council in late 2024. Miller-Williams has maintained throughout the legal battle a line in the city charter saying that the comptroller shall superintend the city's finances, gives her the authority to refuse to borrow in amounts her office deems irresponsible. As city controller, I have a responsibility to safeguard the financial well-being of the citizens and taxpayers of Buffalo, Miller-Williams said in a written statement. As such, the outcome of this case will have lasting implications for repayment of the existing principal and accumulating interest on the acquired debt, which may result in increased property taxes paid for by City of Buffalo taxpayers. Because the 5-judge panel at the appellate level ruled unanimously against her, Miller-Williams can only ask that her appeal be considered, a rarity that she has acknowledged. Still, the Court of Appeals' decision on whether to hear the case likely will not be released until the fall. This means that borrowing beyond the debt limit set by the Comptroller's office, which both lower courts have agreed is advisory, as Scanlon and Nowakowski's lawyers have argued, will be further delayed for the 2025 and 26 capital budgets. Last summer, Scanlon began a public pressure campaign to sway Miller-Williams to bond for all projects in the 2025 capital budget. At the time, Scanlon, then the mayor, touted the largest capital budget in city history as a major investment in the city and Buffalo Public Schools' crumbling infrastructure and as a boon to the local economy through the significant increase in construction work and other economic activity. Miller-Williams did borrow for some of the projects, totaling more than $29 million in the 2025 capital budget, allowing some city and school district projects to move forward, and she recently agreed to borrow more than $25 million for city and district projects approved in the $94 million 2026 capital budget, but all the additional projects will be pushed into the next construction season, creating a significant backlog of projects. Cornwall.
From Aaron Bessiker, police offer details on officers' injuries. A Buffalo police officer shot on Tuesday suffered 3 gunshot wounds to his legs and 1 to his arm, the Buffalo Police Department said Thursday. Mark J. Hurst, 32, was shot once in each calf and once in the upper thigh and once in the upper arm, the police said. 2 other shots hit Hurst's bulletproof vest, damaging his radio and taser. Hurst, who has received a good prognosis, underwent surgery Wednesday and remains at Erie County Medical Center, where he's begun his recovery, the department said in a written statement. Police also released the name of the man suspected of shooting Hurst. Minhaj Siddiqui, 33, has been charged with attempted first-degree murder. The department said in a news release. Further charges regarding the initial call are expected to be filed, the department said. Siddiqui has not yet been arraigned on the charge, prosecutors said. Hurst was shot Tuesday afternoon in a house on Sherman Street as police responded to a call of a woman needing help. The police have characterized it as a domestic incident. The man the police said shot Hurst was shot by other officers. He's in critical condition at ECMC as of Wednesday evening. And on Thursday, the police said that Siddiqui's condition was stable. Hurst, a Fillmore district officer, was hired by the department in 2017. He received the Commissioner's Medal of Commendation for efforts during the blizzard of 2022. Tuesday's shooting was a second attack on a Buffalo police officer that led to a police shooting over a 4-day span. Officers responded to a home on Sherman at about 2:15 p.m. Tuesday after a woman called to say she was locked in a room by a man who had a gun and who threatened her. Police Commissioner Erica Shield has said. Officers tried to get Siddiqui to come outside, but he did not, so they went inside to try to take him into custody. Officers found him in the kitchen and grappled with him, trying to place him in handcuffs, and during the struggle, Siddiqui pulled out a concealed gun and fired at Hurst. Fellow officers, whose names have not been released, fired back. Police officials have said. Guns,
story.
more gun stories than usual in today's paper.
That's what I've been hearing on the news on television as well. Well, it's time for some advice from Eric. Dear Eric, I work in a small department with 2 colleagues, including one named James. James has always been challenging to work with due to frequent errors and an unpredictable emotional temperament. Despite this, we have remained professional as he didn't seem malicious. As a hobbyist crafter, I recently agreed to create a wood carving for him free of charge to honor a deceased loved one. However, a situation recently arose where James shared confidential information with our boss, information he wasn't supposed to have. Our boss initially assumed I was the source of the leak and was extremely upset. While I have since cleared my name and the true source was identified, I discovered that James allowed our boss to believe I was responsible for the duration of a 20-minute conversation without correcting him. When I confronted James, he admitted to it but offered no apology or explanation. Now I am struggling with how to handle the wood carving. I've considered giving it to him unfinished and explaining that I can no longer complete it, but I'm worried that might come across as petty. At the same time, I feel taken advantage of. I always value your balanced and empathetic perspective and would appreciate any advice you have on how to handle this. And it's signed, Betrayed Coworker. Dear coworker, your hesitancy around the favor you're doing for James makes sense. His actions suggest a lack of integrity, or worse, a callous disregard for your professional well-being and reputation. Being petty would be understandable, but giving the unfinished piece probably wouldn't get you the resolution you need and could contribute to an ongoing difficult work situation. In a department as small as yours, and with a person who has a history of being challenging, it's better to be direct. To that end, I suggest addressing the conversation you have with your boss again. You can say something like, I want to have a working relationship with you, but I'm hitting a roadblock because of this thing you did. I feel betrayed and uncomfortable. It's difficult for me to get past it because I don't understand why you did what you did. He may come up with something or he may not. You can decide if what he says changes the way you feel. If you still feel the same way, it's fair to say our working relationship has changed because of this, and while I will continue to be professional, I don't feel comfortable doing outside projects for you, and so I won't be able to complete the craft project we discussed. I also recommend you circle back with your boss about this and make sure the air is clear between the two of you. It's not up to you to keep raising alarms about James, but if James is willing to lie through omission to your boss, it's possible he's also hiding other work deficiencies from him. A clear line of communication between you and your boss may help him to see the department more clearly and make any changes that need to happen. And the second letter, Dear Eric, we have a family member who has worked in public service for decades. Think fireman, policeman, EMT, paramedic. They've been out of tickets for years and years. Because of that, they have a driving record with no blemishes at all, which is not reflective of how they actually drive. As our family member has gotten older and the time for them to stop driving is upon us, we have little recourse because their driving record is clean. We by no means believe that every infraction deserves a ticket, but letting repeat offenders off because of their connections is a dangerous practice, putting the public, the offenders, and the offender's family at risk. What can we do? Signed, Unsafe Roads. Dear Rhodes, if you're concerned about the way this family member or anyone is driving, you may make an anonymous report to the Department of Motor Vehicles or Department of Licensing, Department of Transportation, etc., if you have direct knowledge of an incident or a pattern. However, if you have a more immediate concern, that is, the family member is driving erratically or is impaired, call 911 and alert them. People's abilities beyond the wheel change for all manner of reasons. Sometimes drivers aren't aware of the changes they've undergone and are resistant to intervention from family or friends, and the DMV will investigate and make an assessment with or without a history of tickets. Remedies range from retesting to limitations on the license to suspension or more, depending on the driver's competency. Your family member's service to the public is admirable and needed, but that doesn't give them a license to put their safety or the safety of others at risk. So they've been let out of tickets for years. That's not surprising.
Yeah. Well, now we're going to move on to sports. Yay! Kincaid may be the X factor for the Bills. This is from Lance Lazowski, who from the appearance of his picture never ages. Some best of shape of my life stories told during the voluntary portion of the NFL offseason should be ignored. These players receive the best training and therapies money can buy. They've had a 4 or 5 month break from the punishing high-speed collisions that take a toll on the body during a 17-game regular season. They're practicing in shorts and without pads. We heard encouraging anecdotes from Dalton Kincaid last spring. The Buffalo Bills tight end practiced without limitations after playing through an injury in both knees the previous season. A few practices into his third NFL training camp, Kincaid re-aggravated the torn PSL in his left knee. The issue lingered throughout the 2025 season, costing Kincaid 5 regular season games and limiting him to a career low of 38% of the snaps. Still, the tale Kincaid told following the Bills' second OTA practice last week matters more than most anecdotes you'll hear following these glorified flag football practices. It's probably the best I've felt in my career in this point in the year, said the fourth-year tight end. Not having those thoughts of the knee, especially last year, I really feel good. And not even thinking of it out there. It's great news for the Bills. Kincaid is Josh Allen's best pass catcher. Linebackers cannot cover Kincaid. His presence influences the personnel group's defenses must use to try to stop Buffalo's offense. But the Bills need Kincaid's comfort and confidence to carry into the mandatory minicamp next month, training camp in late July, and throughout the 2026 season. It's not a stretch to call Kincaid one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL. He ranked first among qualifying tight ends in 2025 in yards per route run at 2.77 and yards per target at 9.1. His expected points added per target ranks second according to the Next Gen Stats. The plan to keep him healthy in 2026 may not seem all that different from the one that did not work a year ago. Kincaid did not have surgery this offseason. The Bills' doctors advised against it. Doctors across the country and within the NFL advise against it. A PSL can heal on its own because it is the largest and strongest of all the knee ligaments, surrounded by protective covering and regenerated by robust blood supply. I went with their suggestions and opinions, Kincaid said. One Bills Drive was a second home for Kincaid last offseason. He spent most of the spring and summer working alongside Bills strength and conditioning coach Will Greenberg. It was like the regimen Kincaid has followed across the past 4 months, though he chose to train elsewhere this offseason. He must build strength around the knee to protect the PCL and aid healing. The difference this time is Kincaid's offseason did not start with rehabbing a second knee injury. During the 2024 season, Kincaid also dealt with a Mora-Lavalley lesion in his right knee, a form of bursitis in which fluid builds underneath the knee. It impacted whatever he could do in February and March. Wisely, the Bills bet on Kincaid this offseason by picking up the fifth-year option for the 2023 first-round draft pick. With Kincaid available during the 2025 regular season, Buffalo went to 10-2. He totaled his 39 catches for 571 yards and 5 touchdowns, but he was better than any Bills wide receiver. The decision, which Buffalo finalized in late March, ensures Kincaid is under contract through the 2027 season. It's low risk, relatively low cost bet on a player who elevates the ceiling on the Bills' offense. The Bills need Kincaid on the field. His injury made their offense too predictable at times in 2025. More often than not, Kincaid's presence on the field meant Allen was about to throw the ball. The team's other tight ends, Dawson Knox and Jackson Hawes, are excellent at run blocking, so it did not make sense to risk Kincaid's health on those plays. According to Pro Football Focus, Kincaid blocked just 99 of his 368 snaps. It was all part of the Bills' plan to manage Kincaid's workload. The number one thing is to get it stronger, not just in the knee itself, but around the knee, Bills general manager and president of football operations Brandon Bee said earlier this offseason. You strengthen the quad. There's a ton of things our guys have done. Unfortunately, that thing had flared up and it was tough to calm down. We sat him a little bit of, but again, it's that fine line. I do think, to Dalton's credit, the rest of his body held up pretty good. I do think he got stronger, and the goal is to continue to do that this year. The playoffs provided the Bills with more reasons to be optimistic about Kincaid's health. He played at least 44% of the snaps in both games, the first time he eclipsed 40% since October 11th, and he produced a team-high 83 receiving yards, including a highlight reel, a 14-yard touchdown catch during their season-ending loss to the Broncos of the AFC East Divisional Round. Despite Kincaid's injury, the Bills were among the most effective offenses in the NFL last season. They were fourth in yards per game and points per game. James Cook won the rushing title. Only 4 teams averaged more yards per passing play. This group needs to be better in 2026, though. Allen was sacked a career-high 40 times. His quarterback rating was the lowest since 2019, according to ESPN. DJ Moore, a veteran receiver with 4 seasons of 1,000-plus yards, joined Buffalo in a trade from Chicago. Connor McGovern, the Bills' starting center the past 2 seasons, returned, and a key to Super Bowl caliber offense, however, may be a healthy Kincaid. Well, we can cross our fingers and pray a whole lot and do everything we need to do.
Indeed. Rachel Lindsay reports that the Buffalo Sabres have made a long-term commitment to Josh Doan. Now Doan has to continue his commitment to the Sabres. Given his production and the rapid growth in his role in the first season with the franchise, that won't be a question of if, it will be a matter of how. The Sabres in January signed Doan, a left wing, to a 7-year contract extension with an average value of $6.95 million, less than 7 months after the Sabres acquired him, and defenseman Michael Kesselring from the Utah Mammoth for forward J.J. Peterka. He scored a career-best 52 points, 25 goals and 27 assists in 82 regular season games, and 10 points, 3 goals, 7 assists in 13 Stanley Cup playoff games. Doan already had produced in his first month with the Sabres by the time he signed a contract extension. He scored 15 goals, including 5 power play goals, and had 20 assists from the start of the season until January 20th, the day before his extension was announced. He continued to produce. It was a really exciting first year, and a year that if you would have told me in the end of June last year, after getting traded here, that was how the year was going to go, I think I'd be shocked, but pretty excited about, Doan said. There's a lot of growth, I think, still to be had in my game, and a maturity that being good on every night is something I have to work on, he added. Now, with a new contract and a career year in hand, Doan understands how he has to elevate his game to help the Sabres achieve sustainability and become a consistent playoff contender. We've talked about it, my family and I. Putting points and stats aside, how I feel as a player on the ice is the main focal point, said Doan, the son of former Arizona Coyotes captain Shane Doan. There's hundreds of ways I can be better next year. We'll take a look at that. I'll watch video and stuff with my old man about it to see and grow my game the same way that I did last year to this year. Sabres coach Lindy Ruff outlined his expectations for Doan as the left wing prepares for his second season in Buffalo. Get faster, work on skating, improve shooting, strive for more than 25 goals in a season. After a career year, it may seem, as Ruff put it, greedy to ask for that much more, but Ruff said if you're a little bit quicker and your engine is a little bit bigger, you're going to be a dynamic player. Ruff also said he sees Doan expanding his role as a penalty killer because of his doggedness to pursue the puck. He averaged .247 per game on the Sabres power play units, was second on the team with 9 power play goals, and led the Sabres in takeaways, 46, fourth in the NHL, but did not play substantial time on its shorthanded units. There's always areas to improve, Ruff said. If you're not improving, you're not keeping up. If you think you've arrived and you think this is your I'm here now, you're not getting better. Ruff also praised Doan's ability to create traffic and scoring chances deep in the offensive zone and his ability to create playmaking opportunities below the goal line as assets. I mentioned some of our young guys in the first conversations, and Doan wasn't part of that conversation, obviously, because he was traded for the start of the year, Ruff said. But if you look at that growth, you look at that important role, you look at the energy. He's a Buffalo Sabre. He's the type of guy you can wrap your arms around. You look at Zach Benson's play in the playoffs, fearless play and how dogged he was on the puck, and you have probably two of the best players that were on the puck all the time in Doan and Benson. Doan considered how far he's progressed since he was traded to the Sabres on June 25th, 2025. His statistics clearly have improved. Doan nearly doubled his career offensive output in one season in Buffalo. He scored 12 goals with 16 assists and averaged a little more than 13 minutes a game in 62 games with the Arizona Coyotes and the Mammoth in 2023 and 24, 2023-24 and 2024-25. His perspective and understanding of the responsibility he has in the Sabres dynamic has changed, especially considering Doan just completed his first full season in the NHL. He split the previous 2 seasons between Arizona, Utah, and the franchise's American Hockey League team in Tucson, Arizona. You're always going to have young guys coming in and out, and that's something where, being in a position where I was, you're going to have to help them out in a way. The maturity of taking on a little bit more of not a leadership role, but someone that the team can lean on, that guys can lean on and feel more comfortable in the room. Well, you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We're a little bit out of order here because I read the advice column already, so we're going to stick with sports for now. I'll go to the sports column, and it's 32 minutes past the hour.
Well, I'm going to read a lovely article. The Lancaster Girls Lacrosse wins a Section 6 title. Now, this is from Clevis Murray. Or is it Clevis or Clevis?
Yeah, one of those.
One of them. Clara Buccieri did what she's done all season. Lancaster Jr. and Jacksonville Commit scored 5 goals Wednesday at the Williamsville South High School, pushing her career total to 365 and cementing her place 8th all-time in New York State Public High School Athletic Association history as Legends claimed the Section 6 Class A Girls Lacrosse title with a 24-3 rout of Niagara Wheatfield Niagara Falls. Buccieri is Section 6's all-time leader in goals. Buccieri scored twice before the game was 2 minutes in, setting a tone Lancaster never squandered. Wow, must be very talented. Mm-hmm. This entire season, we wanted to prove a statement, Buccieri said. I'm really proud of this team and everything we were able to achieve this season so far. The Legends built an 8-2 lead after one quarter and made it 14-3 by halftime, a margin that triggered a running clock. From there, it was a formality. Lancaster finished with 24 goals, its offense clicking with contributions up and down the lineup. Jada Jackson, a UMBC commit, added 3 goals. Morgan Pilat and Ava Len each contributed 4. a reflection of just how deep Lancaster's attack is, I'll say. Even with Buccieri as a centerpiece, the Legends are not a one-player team. This team works so hard to get here, Jackson said. Our camaraderie is amazing. From last year, we really wanted this so badly, so it was really great to get this blue patch today. NWNF had no answers. Lancaster's defense held the Falcons to 3 goals on the night for a dominant championship outing. Buccieri made a point to acknowledge the opponent. They are a very good team, Buccieri said. Shout out to them for the incredible season they had. It was not an easy game. There was a brief moment in the first quarter when NWNF strung together back-to-back goals to close within 6-2. A flicker of life that the Legends extinguished quickly. Lancaster responded with 8 unanswered to close the half. It was kind of like, let's just not blink, Coach Julie Buccieri said. We don't need to overthink this. They didn't. The motivation for this run traces back to last season and a loss with the final that stuck with this group all winter. We thought about it almost every day, Jackson said. It was the biggest motivation we need for this win. I think everyone came together and said we need to work hard, and we got to this point. Senior goalie Madison Knob echoed that sentiment. We've been talking about it since the offseason started, Knob said. Just playing like we're ready for revenge, and it's that time to really put the work in and go for it. Now Lancaster turns its attention to the regional round win and will face either Penfield or Fairport at 7 p.m. on June 4th at Churchville, Chili High School. Yep. I was really surprised when I heard somebody say Chili.
That's the way they've always pronounced it there.
Chili, and then there's Mexico on the other part. Okay, whatever. Well, Penfield is the 18th ranked public school team in the national, according to the USA Lacrosse magazine, and several players share a travel roster with girls from both programs to a Rochester-based club, giving Lancaster familiarity. It will not be an easy out. Section 5 historically has been a difficult draw for Section 6 programs, and Julie Buccieri acknowledged the road ahead. We know they're very strong, very hardworking, great athletes, she said. We know the record is not great against Section 5. We're like, why not us? We're going to give it everything we can. And then Eden repeats. Kelsey Barrett scores 4 goals for Eden, holding on to a 10-7 win over Salamanca to claim back-to-back Section 6 Class D girls lacrosse titles. Barrett, a senior attack, was the engine of the Eden offense from the opening whistle. She scored the first 2 goals of the game and never stopped setting the tone for everything that followed. Eden built a 6-1 lead after 1 quarter and pushed it to 9-4 at halftime. Senior Haley Barrett added 2 goals. Freshman Ava Martinez and junior Hannah Jasinski each chipped in 1, and junior Alaya Wakelam rounded out the scoring, and Salamanca refused to fold. Laylene McComber and Amelia McComber each scored twice for the Warriors, and Kiera Bova added 2 more as Salamanca chipped away the 4th quarter, pulling within 3 before Eden held the ball, ran the clock, and forced Salamanca to chase. It was a little nerve-wracking, Amy Coast Masciali said. I'm glad that my girls were able to hold it steady. They believed in themselves, and they were able to pull it off. Sophomore goalie Macy Scott was equally important. Masciali made a point to single her out after the final whistle. She doesn't get the light that she deserves, Masciali said. Macy was a big part of the win today. The back-to-back championships are a testament to a program that works year-round, according to Masciali. It all comes down to the girls, she said. They earn it. They work day in and day out on and off the field during the season and the postseason, and I think that it shows. Masciali also acknowledged the path to a second straight title was not without its bumps. We had our ups and downs, she said. Learning from our mistakes throughout the season made us stronger and able to close it out today. So that's it for the lacrosse girls.
Moving on to baseball, the college level. Shortstop Cam Gravel's bases clearing double sparked the Niagara County Community College baseball team's impressive national championship game performance. Coach Matt Claresmith's third-seeded Thunderwolves, with 55-6 record, won their first National Junior College Athletic Association Division III World Series championship game, defeating second-seeded Rowan College South Jersey Gloucester 12-8 on Wednesday night at TVA Credit Union Ballpark in Johnson City, Tennessee. An Niagara Falls native and NCCC's head coach since 2008, Klinger Smith guided Niagara to a fourth NJCAA title game and first since 2021. His Thunderwolves' 55 victories set a program record for wins in a season. They're now 408 and 79 since 2017. Niagara rallied to beat top-seeded Dallas College Easterfield 6-5 in Tuesday's national semifinals. Then used a pair of 4-run innings to lead Rowan by 8 runs through 3. Niagara Cooper Rossano of Williamsville hit a 2-run homer for a 2-1 advantage over Rowan in the first inning. 4-run innings in the second and third suddenly gave NCCC a 10-2 lead through 3. Gruel's 3-run double highlighted the second, and Falls freshman Cameron Gruarin hit a RBI triple in the third. And CCC connected 14 hits. Gravel went 2 for 5 with 4 RBIs. Rossano, a second baseman, hit 2 for 4 with 4 RBIs. And Penn State commit Dalton Harper of Cheektowaga was 3 for 4 with a double. Gruarin and sophomore Cooper Prizel each collected 2 hits and a double. Niagara's sophomore right-hander Keegan Bazinet picked up the win with 5 strikeouts, and he allowed 6 runs in 6 and the third innings.
Wow.
Rowan right fielder Jack Mustaro went 3 for 4 with a 2-out solo homer in the first inning. Pitcher Tommy Bradley took the loss after allowing 11 hits and 10 runs in 2 1/3 innings. So, Niagara Community College
And
wins
CCC.
its first national title.
And that's good news. I like seeing the Buffalo, Western New York area get some good
It is nice.
good press. Yeah,
It's good to see the kids coming through.
yeah, that's really good all the way around. I still have to say I still get things on my news feed about 19,000 Sabres fans singing the Canadian national anthem, and every single person said it was the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting a lot of good press lately, and I'm thankful. Well, we're going to move on to another story on the front page, and if you listen to the radio at all, you know the name Janet Snyder. And from Alan Pergament, a kiss goodbye as Snyder's radio run comes to an end. A KISS 98.5 morning personality Janet Snyder is considering giving away her alarm clock on her final show on Friday this morning. It has to do with one of the things she isn't going to miss after kissing goodbye to Janet and Nick. That's Nicholas Pickles in the morning, 4:02 a.m. That's when her alarm clock and her cell phone ring Monday through Friday before the show starts at 6 a.m. As the clock wound down for her final show after 32 years at KISS, Snyder was thinking a lot about time during an extended interview in her Buffalo home. Snyder has had the time of her life on air, but a decision to head into the sunset Friday made for a simple reason. As a person of my word, it's very important for me to finish the final day of my contract, she said. She isn't retiring because of changing times on local radio. She expected she had been treated wonderfully with a new contract offered by the station's owner, Odyssey, if she wanted to extend her legendary career as the first woman in the country to believed to host a top 40 morning show. The 1983 graduate of Williamsville East also isn't retiring because she recently had a big birthday. I am so proud to be 51 years old, she joked, adding a wink. Anybody can figure out how old I am. I've set a good example, taking good care of yourself, that I believe that if you laugh every day and have a positive attitude and stay young in your heart, it shows. I'm still really fun. I'm healthy. Knock on wood. She's retiring for one reason. I've learned recently you can make a lot of money, but the one thing you can't buy is time. I don't want to take that for granted. That's being like the deep me. Snyder and her second husband, Jeff Bailey, the chief executive officer of UFP Technologies Incorporated, which specializes in single-use and single-patient medical devices, decided to retire at the same time. He retires next week. They were introduced by a mutual friend 11 years ago and have formed what she referred to as a Brady Bunch of 6 children combined when they married 6 years ago. Snyder's a grandmother now. Though some people think she deserves a little different title, World Oldest Teenager, partly because she needs to stay current with pop culture. Probably accurate, Snyder said, because I like having fun. I can't stop. I love a great concert. I love a great night out. It's a compliment. The compliments were flying this week as Snyder prepared to say goodbye. Janet broke barriers, said WEC owner Buddy Shula. The radio industry has always been male-dominated, especially when Janet began her career. However, she gave the industry a reason to break that barrier. She did not communicate at her audience. She communicated with them and has had conversations on air. Janet's gift always reminded me a lot of what Oprah did for the television industry. Robert Lucas, the former Star 102.5 morning man, feels Snyder belongs to the top figures in Buffalo pop radio who don't need a first name to be recognized. I don't think there's anyone who's had more natural talent at handling any situation, from giving away a car at the Erie County Fair to interviewing a grieving family after a tragic event, than Janice, said Lucas. Her name belongs on the roster of pop radio people who have made Buffalo laugh and cry, and I think at the highest level for multiple decades. Beach, Norton, Taylor and Moore, Shred and Reagan, and a few others. Snyder is on that list. Naturally, Snyder had her own list of memorable moments. She pulled out her cell phone to show a video of a 13-year-old Canadian singer named Justin Bieber performing at the Kiss studio. His people wanted us to interview him, said Snyder, and I'm like, who's he? Well, we talked to the stars. She agreed to interview Bieber if Usher, who discovered him, could be put on a phone for an interview. Bieber walked in with his mother and a small entourage and started singing his debut single One Time on his acoustic guitar. I'm like, the kid's chewing gum, take your gum out. So his mom goes over to him, takes the gum out of his hand. I should have sold it on eBay. This is the first time Justin's been on the radio in America, Snyder said proudly. He comes back a couple more times, he gets bigger and bigger. Then there was a time a few Taylor Swift tours ago when the pop superstar was famously baking cakes. That led to a contest. Who could make the best Taylor Swift cake? Hundreds of people showed up in hopes of winning tickets to a Swift concert. A member of a Swift's media team gave the station several more tickets than originally planned to avoid disappointing more people. Still, this contest broke my heart because imagine 200 little girls were in the kitchen all night baking the best Taylor Swift cake, and you could only pick, say, 10. I think they might have given us 20 pairs of tickets. It was parents bringing their daughters, dads who had to go to work. I mean, just think of the desperation on people's faces. And Taylor Swift wrote a thank you note. Not just a thank you note, a flip card. Almost like it was a lot to read and it was pretty cool. Then there was a Christmas nights bash nights when Snyder met stars including Ed Sheeran, who came before he was popular. Snyder says she never got nervous interviewing big stars. No, I love it, she said. It's the weirdest thing. When I interview someone, you can be super, super famous or you can be a winner. Call 98. They sit down, I already feel like I know them, and I don't know why I feel like that. I just care about what they're going to say. I love talking to people, and she's more proud of raising money for many good causes over the years, including for people impacted by flooding in Gowanda, Hurricane Katrina, and 9/11, as well as making sure children receive new presents for Christmas. I get these ideas in my head, Snyder said, and I feel kind of like how people might feel. I put my feet in the shoes of our listeners, and I know what it was going to mean if you won Taylor Swift tickets. If we gave away $10,000, how life-changing that could be, or if you won a trip and you've never been away on a trip. I'm so happy that I know how I would feel. She has so much to feel good about, especially when you consider the repugnant answer she was given at her alma mater, Ithaca College, in 1987 when she asked if she had what it takes to get a job in business. I went there with big eyes, she recalled. He told me the only way I was going to get a full-time radio job is if I slept with my boss. It was like a knife stab in my heart. It was heartbreaking. I was just naive. I didn't know you weren't allowed to have equal chance. Again, 1987. And he was so wrong, Snyder said. I went to work with incredible people in the radio industry who gave me incredible opportunities. She doesn't know how she's going to feel about retirement. I worked full-time since I was 14, she said. She's rephrasing her retirement as an adult gap year popularized by Generation Z. I don't feel like I'm done, she said. I think there's probably a few more chapters. And she knows she's going to miss many things about the job. I love the job, said Snyder. I'm going to miss everything. I miss co-host Nick and producer Weiss. I love them. I miss the listeners. I miss the fun. I miss being able to know you're about to make somebody's day by giving them a prize or telling them they won. She selected present to give Nick and Weiss the producer whose real name is Mike Anzalone, on Friday. Without spoiling the fun, Weeze will get a new name. Nick's gift comes in a bottle. And I've got a survival kit for him for life without me, she said. I was so proud that we created such a community that Nick and Weeze have been a part of it. It would be ridiculous to take the credit for our show's success without going hand in hand with Nick and Weeze. The final show is planned to be a big party with family and friends in the studio and a lot of reminiscing. Her ideal ending? A girl can dream. Harry Styles calls into the show and says one of his backup dancers got injured and needs me to fill in for a few of the shows. Then I get to be on tour. I'm like crazy obsessed with his tour now. With a 32-year tour on Kiss ending, it was time for the world's oldest teenager to reflect on what she hopes will be her legacy. I hope my legacy is that people will always remember that I showed up, she said. That I made everybody's day a little brighter. That you can have a career and a family. That I was a part of Buffalo's story, and hopefully I left people a little better than I found them. Boy, that's a heartwarming story.
It's a great story. She's cute. I'm so proud to be 51 years old, she said. Yes, that would be, she graduated from Williamsville East at age 8.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's how she adding a wink. Yeah, so
A wink.
she was joking when she said that, obviously.
Really? Because I'm thinking myself, 51, huh? 30 and 51, oh, okay.
What's next for startups? David Lord has been a startup founder and tech executive for around 3 decades, but he's only participated in one pitch competition held by a startup accelerator, and that was 43 North. Lord's Massachusetts-born software platform for outdoor recreation, Guidesly, won $1 million during the 2023 competition and has remained in Buffalo ever since. For him, it was never really all about the money. It was about Buffalo, how it was embracing startups and what it was building. And now 43 North is betting that those intangibles...
Still thinking about Kiss.
Indeed. and the support the region can now offer startups are enough to keep attracting and nurturing entrepreneurs across Western New York without the glitz and allure of a competition for $1 million prize. After 12 years as one of the world's largest and most lucrative business plan pitch contests, 43 North will hold its final competition this coming October. 43 North then plans to cease operations of its accelerator program by the end of 2027, the final year it is being funded by the state, and look to the 43 North Foundation to continue its work. I'm not sure the money is what made the difference for me, North said. When I first met with 43 North, I knew instantly this would be a great place for us from the commitment and what they were looking for. 43 North and Buffalo is the ultimate partnership. The ultimate partner. You take a step and they take a step with you. If you lean in, this is the place for you. This is a place that does the work. It's a big shift, one that banks on the region's startup ecosystem, almost non-existent when 43 North began, having evolved to the point where the region now has entrepreneurs thinking about starting their own businesses and has a support system in place to help them. It's a model that focuses more on taking care of their own, said Colleen Heidinger, 43 North's president. And with the groundwork that's being laid by 43 North, she believes there's opportunity now to grow even more companies in Buffalo. But it marks a fundamental shift in Buffalo's innovation economy and leaves big shoes to fill, with the 43 North Foundation taking over as the anchor for the startup ecosystem in Western New York. Instead of bringing in a handful of established startups lured by $1 million prize, the focus is shifting to become more of a traditional incubator to nurture homegrown businesses, mostly from scratch. It's a bet that the Buffalo startup scene, which has spawned a new class of entrepreneurs itching to create their own companies, is advanced enough to stand on its own without a glitzy competition offering $1 million prizes and $1 million in funding to the winners. We have the founders and companies around us now, Heidinger said. We don't have to import them anymore. But the 43 North competition has become such an integral part of Buffalo's startup ecosystem and helping get the word out about the positive things happening in this region. It may take some time to get footing in the next phase. Among its many successes, 43 North helped launch companies like online dealer-to-dealer wholesale vehicle auction platform ACV Auctions, which received a 43 North $1 million investment 10 years ago and went public on NASDAQ just 5 years later. When ACV came through the competition, 43 North provided far more than capital. It gave us credibility and access to a community that believed high-growth technology companies could be built right here in Western New York, George Shamoun, CEO of ACV, said in a statement. 43 North helped accelerate our momentum at a pivotal stage. But the bigger impact is what 43 North has done for the region. It helped change the narrative around Buffalo as a place where startups can launch, scale, attract talent, and compete globally. Bill Maggio, the 43 North Foundation's chair, said there were about 3 identifiable startups in Buffalo back when 43 North started in 2014. And now there are more than 150 startups in various businesses, including around 50 of them that applied for 43 North last year. The state has been the primary funder of the program all along, with the idea that 43 North eventually would become self-sustaining, but the state wasn't willing to fund the competition any longer, and 43 North says it was never meant to be permanent. The competition has been such an important part of the fabric of our ecosystem, and I think people thought it would go on forever, Maggio said, and maybe 3 years from now we'll decide to do it again. Who knows? Lord wouldn't mind seeing that happen. If it were up to me, I'd keep the competition, Lord said, but I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm going to assume what comes out of this will be great for Buffalo, and I'm building a company in Buffalo, so it should work out great for us.
Well, it's coming to the end of our time, I think, here.
Great, so it's been fun, but
Before we sign off, though, I think we're going to look at a couple of comics, and we got a couple of good ones here. And we have Blondie. And Dagwood and Little Elmo are standing at the side of the road, and he's waiting to get his ride to work. And Dagwood says, "Summer's right around the corner, Elmo. Are you excited?" And he says, "I sure am. School'll be over, and I'll have all the time in the world to hang out at your house, Mr. B." And Dagwood's thinking, "Oh man, it's gonna be a long summer." What do you think?
I think it's going to be a long summer for Dagwood.
Yeah.
So High and Lois has, I can't remember his name, the older boy. Tickets, $15. Popcorn, $8. Soda, $5. Candy, $6 plus tax. He's telling his dad, "This chart shows why I need $70 to take a date to the movies." Uh-huh.
And we have the usual. We have Family Circus, where the kids are all standing looking up at Mom. They just come walking in, and they said, "Can we have some junk food?"
Can we have some junk food? I love it.
Well, you've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Friday, May 29th of 2026. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, please call us at 716-821-5555. And your readers today have been
Don Williams
and J.J. Patak. And thank you for listening, and be safe out there.
Welcome summer with your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We're planning a summer bash bigger and better than ever before. It's Friday, June 26th at Creekside Banquet Facility in Grove, located at the corner of Union Road and William Street in Cheektowaga. You're invited to enjoy a buffet chicken and pasta dinner, your first drink on us, a basket raffle, and Buffalo Music Hall of Fame party band The Boys of Summer from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets are $50 and support the 160 volunteers who read all the programming offered by Radio Reading. That's Friday, June 26th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Creekside Banquet Facility in Grove in Cheektowaga. Get your tickets now by calling 716-821-5555 extension 3 or online at nfradioreading.org. Thank you to New Era Cap Foundation, Tyvarian Law, and Perry's Ice Cream for sponsoring this largest event of the year.
program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print